Hey, what's up guys? Anderson here, playing a match on Sanrikuria. My opponent is Takenoko. And I checked out his stats for the battle. Dude's got 70%, 71% win-loss ratio. Seems like it'll be a good fight. And unfortunately, as soon as the battle starts, I realize it's another Loansword Corps army. Now real quick, this is a long battle, I'm going to do a lot of fast forwarding, maybe some time lapse, I'm not sure yet. But you can see I've got, my usual build. I've got Matchlock Warrior Monks with Naginata Sams. I've got 2 Nodachis and 3 Katana Sams. I've got 1 Bow Warrior Monk, 2 Yari Samurai. And over here I have my 2 Great Guard. And now on this side of the forest I actually have a Matchlock Ashigaru and a Yari Ashigaru with a Katana Cav. And at first my strategy was to use this as kind of like a decoy unit, because I don't really care about Matchlock Ashigarus, especially vanilla ones. So I figured, maybe if I pop that unit out at the right time, I could get him to rout his army over there and maybe take away some arrow fire or get him to take some loanswords over there. But anyways, look at my opponent's army real quick. Here's what I'm always talking about, utilizing the loansword corps. This guy has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loanswords. He also has 4 Bow Warrior Monks with some Yari Ashigarus, and I believe 2 Naginata Warrior Monks. So I know he has 1 Cav unit hidden in this forest, I believe over here, and the rest of his army is just this massive Ashigaru spam army. Because these loanswords are so cheap, he can afford to field all of these bows and all these spears. Now luckily for me, his Bow Warrior Monks only had 175 range versus mine, which have 200. And mine are pretty well veteraned as well. So you're going to see, how effectively I pretty much skirmish and destroy most of his range units with my 1 ranged Bow Warrior Monk. So at the start of the battle, I wanted to get rushed up into this position right here. Maneuver my Cav first to, dissuade his army, and then take them around to scout around this perimeter, because people usually always hide Cav in these forests. And you can see I also have, these guys crawling to this forest at a slow pace, just trying to, get them in a good position and a concealed position to where I can spring them out at the right time. Now because this battle is so slow, I'm going to fast forward through quite a bit of it and try to slow down at, the better parts. So right now, I'm trying to maneuver my Bow Warrior Monks to the edge of this forest so I can engage his. And, the funny thing about this, if he had put all of his Bow Warrior Monks on mine, even though my guys are in the forest, his would have probably won the skirmish. But because he didn't want to do that and kept on running them back, and I had to go out in the open terrain to skirmish, it was just a really long, tedious battle. And it didn't do him any benefit. The only time he really killed my Bow Warrior Monks was when I ran out of ammo and decided to charge them in. Now you can see he also has a Bow General, and I tried to get in a quick, cheap shot on his general there, but he pulled him back behind his lines, behind his spear's safety. And this guy has so many spears. This is such a nightmare job for my Cav, trying to maneuver through all these spears and actually be effective. But I do pull a funny little trick over here. Now he pulls out his Yari Cav, which they did manage to get a good downhill charge on my Great Guard. But by the time my Katana Cav catch up, he's already routing. And now he's chasing me down with some Yari Ashigarus. he's got a whole mix over here just to chase down my Cav. But I come up with a plan, and this actually works out pretty funny. He pulls back the rest of his army, but he's still got this Yari Ashigaru chasing me. So what I do is I bring these Katana Cav over here, and I actually dismount them so they can fight on foot against his Yari Ashigaru. Because I don't think that at this stage in the fight, I didn't think he was going to retreat them. So I decided to swing out my Great Guard first to try to distract his spears. while my katana cav can actually go dismounted and just destroy these Yari Ashigaru. So here you can see he goes and tries to, I guess, spear wall against my Great Guard, but I'm not using them to fight, I'm just using them to distract his troops. And here you can see my katana cav dismounted just, you know, destroy this Yari Ashigaru. And since they're actually caught up now in melee with my dismounted katana cav, I'll go ahead and bring my Great Guard in for a rear charge. You know, just really shake up this guy's morale, crush him as quick as possible. I thought that was a pretty little clever maneuver I did there. You can see my katana cav are still 60 out of 60 from that little battle. So all in all, it worked out pretty well for me. Oh, wait, no. I think his bow warrior monks got up a few arrows, so now they're 56 out of 60. Still barely any losses for taking out an entire Ashigaru unit. And the rest of this battle is going to commence pretty slowly. So what I think I'm actually going to do now is a time lapse, and I won't show you the whole skirmish. I'll explain it though. You know, he doesn't want to draw his army back to the trees, and he doesn't want to attack me even though he has an overwhelming force. So what I end up doing is I have to take my bow warrior monks out here, you know, maneuver them forward in the terrain, skirmish, and then maneuver them back. And it goes on like this for probably 20 minutes or so. This is a 29-minute battle. A bit ridiculous. But alright, I will go ahead and time lapse this, and we'll catch back up after I've, you know, destroyed some of these bow units and I get ready for the attack. Alright, so here we fast forward a little bit, and I've already routed one of his bow warrior monks. He's got one full unit back here in his army, and two more out here, and you can see I've skirmished them down quite a bit. This one's 20 out of 75, and this one's 41. He also sent some Yari Ashigarus to try and hit my bows, but I was able to quickly rout those guys with my Naginata Samurai. And you can see I still have 67 out of 75, so I decided just to stand here and go ahead and skirmish the rest of these guys down. So already with my one bow warrior monk, I've managed to obliterate 3 of his. And the only reason I didn't manage to get in here and get this 4th unit was because I ran out of arrows. As well, you can see I have these katana cav over here and hidden this forest too. So here goes this last unit. I've also done some skirmishing on his Naginata warrior monks as well. You know, a low armored unit that is easy to take out with bows. So, you know, I just wanted to do as much with my bows as I could to weaken his infantry before I actually made the charge in. You know, and sadly these guys with their, you know, massive armies, you know, they play so defensively. It's getting ridiculous. You know, every once in a while I get a player that attacks and whatnot, but most of these guys, they bring these massive armies with overwhelming numbers, and then they just camp it out. I really don't understand. And here I actually brought out my katana cav just to get some cheap kills, trying to boost their experience so I can put more points in them. But yeah, that's what that was all about. And he knows I have him over there, so I wasn't really too worried about hiding him. Let me fast forward this a little bit more. Alright, so now my bow warrior monks are completely out of ammo. No more arrows left. I've managed to, you know, skirmish down these Naginata warrior monks to 38 out of 120. And I also tried to hit one of his veteran loansword Ashigaru with what was left of my ammo. So that unit's at 134 out of 150. He still has, you know, a matchlock Ashigaru, full strength back here, and pretty much a full strength bow warrior monk. And so I'm trying to advance, get my matchlocks pushed up, and he sees this, so he actually brings his bow warrior monks out to start skirmishing with my matchlocks. Now, I'm really not worried about my matchlocks. If anything, they're protecting the rest of my army from arrow fire, and I still have this unit of, you know, matchlock Ashigaru up here as well. So I decided to go ahead and put my bow warrior monks in for a charge. You know, I know they're not going to last long, but hopefully, you know, I was planning to get some of these units around these swords that were moving to intercept, and just hit these guys, do a little bit of damage, as much as I could, while I pushed up the rest of my units. So I set my matchlocks up, And then I also put a Nagi Sam, with them to protect them a little bit. And they aren't really going to do too many kills this battle. But what's so great about matchlocks, like even if they don't get kills, people will go out of their way to kill a matchlock. And now my Naginata Sams are up here, they're engaged, and they're drawing all of his matchlock fire, so I can bring the rest of my army in. Now I made a big mistake here. I thought I had my general with the rest of my units advancing up, but my general was actually back here, way far back, not helping my army out at all. So he's got his matchlocks pushed up here, and my units are actually engaged with them, and I put my Yari Sams in rapid advance, just so I could close quickly and get them caught up in melee as well. And now I'm advancing the rest of my army, so I went ahead and brought my matchlocks back down. I'm worried about those bow warrior monks a little bit, because they can do some damage. And fortunately, he wasted both of his war cries just on some Yari Sams. So that worked out pretty well for me. I went ahead and put my Nodachi and Banzai, and I'm going to charge these guys in and follow them up quickly with my Katana Samurai. Now I am still fairly outnumbered infantry-wise when you look at all of his infantry units, but collectively I think my forces are a little bit better, and I really screwed myself over by not having my general up here, which I realized all too late in the fight. So my Nodachis and my Yari Sams, all those units take a pretty severe beating. But I see a gap in here, so I decided, now's a good time to go ahead and bring in my Katana Cav, try to get those hammer and anvil attacks in. And, I've got spears on me too, but my main focus is just routing these guys as quickly as possible so my infantry can move on to the next target. So that involves, getting these guys in here, in his rear, demoralizing his units, and I also brought out my Great Guard as well, with my other set of Matchlock Ashigaru and Yari Ashigaru. He sends out these spears to intercept my Great Guard, but I'm not going to fall for that. I'm going to keep my units maneuvered. I went ahead and sent out this Yari Ashigaru to intercept these loanswords, which he popped his rally. Luckily, I got my general up here. You can see I popped my rally. I used Inspire on this Katana Sam, and I'm going to pop down and stand and fight once I think it's presumably safe and I don't have to worry about his arrows. I ended up sending my Great Guard in to charge this sword unit as well. Now unfortunately, these matchlocks do a hefty little number on my Great Guard, and by the time I realize it's a little bit too late, but I do get what's left of my Katana Samurai there trying to route into these matchlocks. He's in guard mode, so his units will continue to shoot. And once I realize what's happening over here, I decide to go ahead and just charge my Great Guard through these loanswords to hit his matchlocks as fast as possible. Now the infantry battle, I'm holding up really well over here. His units, the only reason most of these guys haven't routed yet is because he did use his rally. But fortunately he used it sooner than I used mine, so his will wear off first. And my guys are just really hooking and jabbing down here, cleaning up his infantry. He really doesn't stand a chance with these loanswords. As you can see, I didn't even need to kill the general. Usually that's a tactic I use in these fights, clean out the general, get them done with. But I didn't need to, because I brought those Katana Cav in early to get those rear charges, those hammer and anvil attacks, get his units to rout fairly quickly. And at this point in the battle, my opponent realizes he doesn't have a chance. I'm about to converge on him with all of my infantry, and he concedes, which he might as well have done from the beginning and playing with that build and playing defensively. It's just ridiculous. But I will go ahead and show you guys the stats. Alright, so here's the results for that battle. You can see I deployed 1,600 units, and my opponent deployed 2,300. I had 1,087 losses and 1,625 kills. Go ahead and look at the kill count. You see my bow warrior monks, they clearly destroyed that match. 342 kills, followed next by my Katana Cav and then Katana Sams. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time.